Hey all, here OS Reviews. A few months back, we checked out the Timekettle WT2, which are a pair of smart translation buds, which I thought was pretty cool in terms of their form factor, and actually worked quite well. Well, now the same company is back with another translation product. It's called the Zero. This one here attaches directly onto your existing smartphone, so it doesn't require another dedicated device for you to carry around. It works with both iOS and Android. It comes in two versions, one which is a Lightning for iOS, another one which is a standard USB Type-C for Android smartphones. Now there's a couple things that this does. First of all, it comes with 4 noise-canceling microphones, which claims to work better for picking up your voice. The second one is it comes with a companion application which unlocks whenever you connect it to your phone and gives you offline translation capabilities. That offline mode is what sets it apart compared to free applications like Google Translate, for instance, because if you are severed from the internet connection using other free apps, you basically lose the ability to translate. Works with 40 different languages, supports up to 100 different accents and dialects. It's still cheaper than many dedicated translators, devices like the Lingogo that we checked out. Then we have just the Zero translator itself, which is actually included in this little credit card shaped holder, which you can put onto a wallet to make it easier to take with you when on the road. You can push to remove this little module, and if you don't want to kind of put it in your pocket or you are afraid of losing it, you can always store it back into this holder, which is also magnetic, by the way, so it attaches very easily. As far as the design of the Zero itself, it's constructed out of a unibody aluminum chunk. It's in this space gray color matching Apple products. We have the connector port, and then on the back here it just says Zero, designed by Timekettle, and that's essentially it. Again, all the microphones are located on the front. So I've plugged it in. This is what it looks like on the bottom of your phone, and it has a pop-up that says, allow it to give permission to communicate with this device. Afterwards, the app will actually automatically turn on, and immediately it's recognized the Zero translator, which is pretty cool. Now, I want to also mention that this is the same application that is also used for their other products, like the WT2 translation buds. So if you don't plug it in directly and you just first open up the application, it actually first gives you the screen here to select the device that you want to connect to. So if you're using the buds, for example, you would select on this, but you can't unlock the features until you connect. The interface here allows us to select the 2 languages, so right now we have English and Chinese. If I want to confirm on that, I can tap on OK, and it tells us how to speak into it, about 60 degrees pointing upwards from the phone. Make sure you're not aiming the microphone just only at your face, and also cover the other person, ideally in a similar location to them, and afterwards we are done. So it gives us a main menu here that we can tap on, this button here to change languages, and this one here to go into fine settings. Let's do a quick test. We can tap here to speak in English, and the other side we can tap to speak in Chinese, so for 2 different people. Hello, this is a test using English. How is it working?
您好，这是使用英语的测试，如何运作？
So overall, it's working pretty well in terms of picking up the syntax. It knows commas, punctuation, and periods and question marks. It's all recognized pretty well, and the translation seems to be decent in terms of the overall speed. Of course, since we're using a smartphone, the display size will be much larger than on a dedicated translation device, and I can tap on the other side to respond. 非常好.
Very good.
If we tap on the kind of language icon there, that's when we can change the selected language. We can search and choose something different. For example, we can replace Chinese here with something like Spanish, local accents and variants of the language. I'm just going to tap on USA. Translation test using Spanish.
Prueba de traducción en español.
Muy bien, gracias.
Very well, thanks.
So overall, it's working pretty well, and again, recognizes syntax, punctuation without any issues. Now on the sidebar here, we can also go into changing different modes. So right now we're in a translation mode, which is going to be useful if you're doing phrases and sentences where you're talking back and forth between 2 people. I can also change it to the meeting mode, which will be recognizing up to 4 people speaking at once, and give you that speech-to-text recognition. We'll record whoever is speaking in the direction that they're speaking to. So right now the blue icon here has a microphone pointing downwards. That means I'm standing right here next to to the camera, and closest to this bottom microphone, it's the person speaking, versus red person speaking a little bit more, since that's where the noise is now coming from. Afterwards, you can see the dialogue between the four people, like the first person that was talking near the camera, the second person from the side, and useful for business scenarios or team project work. The next function, which is interview mode, is meant for two people talking back and forth, so similar to the conference, but instead of four people, up to two, and you can select two different languages as well. So for example, right now we can choose Chinese and English. It will also pick up the direction that you're speaking into, so let's start this recording. I will start this interview by speaking in English. 现在我要说中文，中文的测试，你好。Thank you. Test 1, 2, 3. So you can see it's picked up the notes from both sides. I will start in English, and then this is saying that this is going to be a Chinese test. Thank you, 1, 2, 3. The accuracy here in the free-flowing interview mode is not going to be as high as the regular translation mode, where you can kind of pause in between and seems to have at least 90% accuracy, similar to other services we've tried in the past, like Google Translate. But the free-flowing interview mode, because it needs to be always recognizing when you're switching between languages, it can sometimes be a little trickier, but overall the main idea is still captured. Once again, you can play back the entire recording. I will start this interview by speaking in English. And that's what the quality of the mic is like. 现在我要说中文 1, 2, this interview by speaking. And you can jump back and forth between parts of the interview just by tapping on the dialog boxes, and it will be stamped to the correct time of the playback, which is kind of neat. Finally, you can also take a look at a text translation mode, which is going to be just typing things in. It's not as fun as using voice, but it's there if you don't want to be speaking out loud. There's also a history function which records every single session that you've captured. So for example, here is one that we were using with Chinese and English and then speaking in Spanish, and it's captured that back and forth dialogue. I can also do things like send these different messages onto by email or copy it to put into a document. The top setting allows us to do things like change the font size. We can also turn on a background reduction mode, which is called noisy mode, so that will cancel out environments and things like wind and engine sounds, and it's kind of effective if you're outdoors. I did a quick test earlier and it did improve things, but if you're in a crowd and there's a ton of people's voices talking, that can still sometimes be a little tricky for it to pick up. It does its best job and works better if you have it turned on, but still sometimes if you have someone else close to you that's talking out loud, maybe their words will get sliced in with yours during that process. So ideally you want to be in an area where there's not too many people talking, but this will cancel out things like wind sounds, engine sounds, other noises like that. We can also turn off the offline translation mode if you have Wi-Fi and cellular data turned off, and that works pretty well, but it has a smaller list of languages which works, and it's saved into the app's memory basically when you download it. It supports Chinese, English, as well as Japanese, French, and to Russian and Spanish. So we can turn on airplane mode, disabling Wi-Fi, and have this flicked on. Afterwards, it will just be working without any internet connectivity. A test using the offline translation. How does it work?
你好，这是一个使用离线翻译的测试，它是如何工作的？
And the accuracy there is actually surprisingly good. It's still able to recognize the correct syntax. So it doesn't, support only things like simple words and phrases, but even for more complicated sentences, the accuracy is still pretty good in the offline mode. It's just the language list is a little bit smaller, and also it sometimes takes a split second longer to translate compared to if you have a fast internet connection, but pretty robust. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Timekettle Zero, a pocket translator that basically just clips onto your smartphone, and really using their companion application enables this functionality, gives you offline translation, gives you higher accuracy using these microphones that support noise cancellation, can detect up to 4 different people sitting in different spots for various interview and meeting notes that can transcribe your voice into text, and overall works quite well. This has been the Timekettle Zero plug-in translator for smartphones. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.